Okay, we're going to make one of my versions of lasagna. Um, this is heating up. Um, but we're going to make the sauce and everything from scratch. Nothing wrong with using a jarred sauce, your favorite, if that's what you want. Sometimes I do it. Today I'm going to do it all from scratch. Really important, have all of your stuff ready. I will tell you the quantities as I go along. I'm not running down a list all at once. And if I remember when I'm uploading the video, I'll also put it in the comment section as well. But for now, we're going to start with a pound of lean beef. That's 97.3. And a pound of mild Italian sausage. We're going to let this brown. I'm going to stir it up when I put this phone down. We're going to brown this for, oops, forgot to take this off. We're going to brown it, and that's going to take about 8 to 11 or 12 minutes, and then we'll be back. Notice I didn't season it. Alright, so it's starting to brown. We still got a ways to go. I have this on medium-high heat, and I wanted to show you this because you really don't, you want to break it up, but you really don't want any pieces bigger than a quarter. Actually, a little less than a quarter should be the biggest size of the pieces. So, and you want to use a wooden spoon. And yes, it makes a difference between using a wooden spoon and a metal one. But yeah, you want to. I'm doing this, and as I'm breaking it up, I'm actually stirring the lean beef and the mild sausage together as I'm breaking it up, just by virtue of me breaking it up and how I do it. A lot of recipes will call for sweet Italian sausage. I prefer to use a mild Italian sausage or even a hot Italian sausage. Reason being is the carrots and the onion are going to exude sugar on their own, and I find using a sweet Italian sausage, it's just a little too much sweetness for my taste. But that's me. You use whatever you want and whatever your preferences are. So once this meat is sufficiently browned, and I want it brown. I don't want to see any pink in any of it. Once it's sufficiently browned, then the onions and the carrots are going to go in there, and I'm going to let that cook until the carrots themselves are soft. Also, one more thing. You'll see that you'll see a lot of recipes, the ones that have carrot in them, will say finely chop or dice the carrots. I prefer mine like this. You can call it matchstick, you can call it whatever you want. I prefer mine like that. You do yours however you want. A lot of recipes will call for specific amounts of basil or rosemary or thyme or garlic. Other things, salt or sea salt or fresh cracked black pepper or whatever. Those, I wing it. And I put in however much I like, because it's my stomach and it's my taste buds. So I already have all of that ready here together, because when it's time for those to go in, they're all going in together, but that's later. We'll talk about that later. But we'll be back once I get the carrots and the onion in there. Alright, so I've got my garlic and herbs and salt and pepper in here, and my tomato paste. That's a 6-ounce can of tomato paste. We're going to stir this up, and then once I get it fully stirred, I'm going to start my minute timer, and I'll know it's ready for the next step because I'll really smell the tomato paste, and the tomato paste will no longer be red like that. It'll be closer to an orange like the carrot. Alright, so this is at the stage I want it, and now we're going to start adding some liquid. A lot of recipes will call for water or wine, both. I prefer to use, and this is 1.5 cups total, but I'm using a half a cup of chicken broth and 1 cup of vegetable broth. Now is also the time where you want to scrape any brown bits from your meat from the pan. You just want to run your spoon around the bottom and the sides of your pan. You'll feel it catch on anything that's in there. I'm just using a pot that it's not sticking. So I know it's not sticking, so now I want to give it a nice, good stir, and then I'll be back with the next step. Alright, so you've got 1 large onion in here and about 2 cups of shredded carrot. You can put in less if you want. Most recipes call for less. I happen to like it, and that's why I'm putting it in. So we're going to mix this up, and we're going to keep it on medium-low, uncovered, and I'm going to cook this for about 6 to 8 minutes or so, until the onions are starting to brown and the carrots will probably start to brown, which is fine because that means they're somewhat caramelizing. And then we will be back with the next step. Alright, so everything is mixed. I have now added my 2 cans of crushed tomatoes. There's 2 cans of 28 ounces each. I've turned my heat down to a little under medium. I'm going to get everybody here swimming in the pool all nicely and all mixed up well. And then we will move on to the next step. And then we're going to have to come up to the hurry up and wait stage of this, because this is going to simmer, but more on that later. If you have anything up here, get everybody down into that wonderful red goodness that you have in your pot. So I will be back shortly. Alright, so the sauce is almost to a low simmer. When it gets to that stage, we will taste it for seasoning to see if it needs salt, pepper, any more herbs. And once we get that where we want it, Then we're going to turn it down to a medium low, because we're going to have this do a low simmer for about an hour, hour and a half or so. Alright, so now I'm going to turn this down to medium low. We're going to taste it for seasoning. Let me see where we're at. Alright, so it does need a little bit more salt, a little bit more pepper, and I think a little bit more rosemary I'm going to put in. Alright, so I've added some more salt, some more black pepper, some more rosemary. I actually added a little bit more thyme as well. I also added a little bit of chive, dried chive. And I forgot to mention, when I was talking about the herbs, they're all dried. They're not fresh. I find for something that's going to simmer this long, my personal preference is I'd rather use dried than fresh. That's just me. You use whatever you want, but you need to adjust the amounts if you're using fresh versus dry, and you'll have to find out how to do that on the internet yourself. But we're going to let this coordinate and percolate for an hour and a half on a low simmer. I will stir it maybe every 15-20 minutes or so, and then we will be back. But right now, this is exactly what it should be looking like. See you later. Alright, our sauce is almost done simmering, so I'm going to get the cheesy part of the lasagna ready, and then get the oven preheated, and then we'll be ready to go. So I have 2 eggs, large eggs, beaten. I put in some fresh cracked black pepper, a little onion powder, a little garlic powder, and that's it. So now we're going to add 15 ounces of ricotta. I prefer to use whole milk ricotta. A lot of recipes will want you to use part skim. You can if you want. I just prefer the whole milk. We're also going to add an entire pound of part skim mozzarella shredded, and I'm going to add about 3/4 of a cup of sharp cheddar. Shh, that's a secret. And then I'm going to add an entire cup of Parmigiano Romano and Asiago, and then we'll mix it all up. And then when the sauce is done, we'll be ready to start layering in the pan. Alright, so our cheese mixture here is almost completely mixed. Notice I switched from the whisk to the scraper. I think the scraper is better, so you can scrape down any egg or anything like that from the side of the bowl. You can't really do that with, well, something that's not a scraper. Well, you could. It would just take you longer. Just using a scraper is more effective. And if you use a good silicone scraper, then it can easily take doing this. Some of the cheaper ones, or some of the not good ones, in my opinion, the more bendy, flimsy ones, can't take pushing something as heavy as this cheese mixture, because it is heavy. Something I forgot to mention a long time ago in the beginning of the video, the sauce that I'm making, all of it is not going to be used for one lasagna. It's a little bit more than double the amount that you're going to use for one lasagna in a 9x13 pan, unless you're going to make two lasagnas. I'm making a lot because I'm going to use this sauce for other things like, well, spaghetti or whatever pasta I want. And this sauce for other things will be a base, because I might do a quick bolognese with it or whatever. Anyway, back to the cheese. So I wouldn't sit here and agonize over making sure that, you know, you don't see any of the different shredded cheeses that are not, that still look shredded. You don't want it to be necessarily a flat, clumpy mass that looks like that. I personally, I'm not going to worry about it. I'm smushing it down right now because in a moment I'm going to, well, you'll see what I'm going to do, because doing this is, you want to try to make everything look like this, you'll be here a year. Okay? Because as soon as you do that, you're going to get more of the shredded pieces, which is just fine. So now at this point, if you think you want to add more of one cheese or another, you can. I decided to put in more of the Parmesan mixture into here than I'd originally said, but that's just because I like my lasagna really, 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 really cheesy. But anyway, this is as far as I'm going to go with this. This is good enough for me, and we will be back with the layering. Okay, so our sauce is done. You can't really tell, but it has reduced down quite a bit. As you can see, even though I put a lot of liquid in here, it's not watery. I can't stand a watery damn lasagna. A watery sauce, period. But anyway, it's cooked down. The onions are pretty much falling apart, which is a good thing. Carrots as well. Everything is well incorporated. And at the very end, I've also popped in some of this. Now, I put that in a lot of food, or even sprinkle it on a salad. It has its health benefits. I'm not going to get into that. That's not what this video is about. So now, we need to get this in here. So I'm just going to put a small bit in the bottom, and then layer some of the lasagna noodles on top, and then the cheese, and then more sauce, and more noodles, and then we're going to just go around and around, and then I will come back when I get to the top. Actually, let me just show you this first. Sorry for my finger. So we want about we want the bottom of the pan to be covered with a layer about that thick. You can't really tell, but it's not a very thick layer at all. Also, this is an ungreased pan. This is also a throwaway pan. I have no intentions on keeping it. So yeah, we want a layer that's like a little less than half an inch. And actually, that's too much. Like a quarter of an inch in the bottom, and then the noodles on top. I've already tested it. I know I need 5 noodles for this 9x13 pan. I prefer to do it in a pan that's deeper than this, like 2 inches minimum, but couldn't find a throwaway pan that was that deep. So I'm using this. I do have enough that I could actually make 2 lasagnas. I have enough sauce and cheese for 2, but that's it. I'll be back in a minute. Okay, so first layer of sauce is down in the bottom of the pan. And now we're going to place the noodle on top. I like to press it a little. And my hands are clean. I just washed them. And I'm going to overlap the noodles just a tiny bit. Some recipes will tell you not to. I've used these noodles before. These are the Barilla. No, you don't have to boil these first. So I've used them a few times, so I know that these will be fine. This one's being a pain in my ass, so hold on. Let's go. There we go. All right, so now here's why I did that. Now I can adjust it a little and get the first layer where I want it. There. Press them all down. Oh, I didn't let the sauce cool first. You don't really have to. So now this one is too long. So I have to use both hands so you won't see it. But I'll be breaking this one. I'm getting a rough idea how much overhang there is so I know how much to break off. And then I'll place it, and trust me, the piece I break off is going in there. I'm not wasting anything. And yeah. All right. Noodles are down, as you can see. But I wanted people to see this. So I'm putting the first layer of cheese in, and it's thin. But I'm pressing it down. And I want to make sure that it's all the way up against the pan everywhere. I like to do one side, then the other, because sometimes when you're using these noodles that you don't have to boil first, they can curl from the heat of the sauce, I find. So, but I wanted folks to see this in particular, how it's going all the way up against the sides, and I'm pushing it down and I'm making this smooth. Now this I do want to make smooth, unlike when I was first mixing it. So all I'm doing right now is getting this in there, getting all of the noodle covered, and getting everything up against the side. I just need a little bit more because I'm almost done. This, trust me, I mean, this takes a little bit of time. And by a little bit, I mean maybe another minute extra rather than just plopping it in here. But it is so worth it for the end result. Oops. It is so worth it for the end result to do this and do it this way. It absolutely makes a difference. And this is just my opinion, from my 20 years of making lasagnas. Well, more than 20, but it's another story. All right. So now, a lot of recipes will tell you to mix the ricotta and reserve some of the ricotta, the mozzarella, the egg, parmesan, etc., and reserve some of the mozzarella off to the side because they would have you after you put down this cheese layer, sprinkle some more mozzarella over this before you go on to starting the next layer. Personally, I don't like doing it that way, um, so I don't. So now I'm going to go back to doing my layers, and I'll let you see what it is looking like before it goes in the oven. All right. So right now we have 3 layers of the meat sauce, 2 layers of the cheese, 2 layers of noodles. I put a very thin layer of meat sauce on the top, and then sprinkled it with some more Parmigiano cheese mixture, and it's gonna go in the oven. Again, it's 375, um, and it's gonna go in there for 30 minutes, loosely covered. I'm gonna cover it loosely. It'll be in there for 30 minutes. Then after 30 minutes, I'll take the aluminum foil off, and I'll check it after 20 more minutes to see if it's where I want it to be, which is bubbly and the edges slightly crisp, but not burnt. And if it's not where I want it after 20 minutes, I'll let it go another 10 and check it again, and so on and so on. But it shouldn't be more than an additional 10. So we will see you when it is done. All right, this is where we are after the first 30 minutes. It's been uncovered. As you see, no bubbling over. If this sauce was runny, it'd probably be bubbling over all over the damn place. But now it's got to go for another 20 minutes and they'll come back and check it again. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have a done lasagna. The edges are exactly where I want it to be. And if you notice, there's very little signs of it bubbling. Also what I want. So now we're going to take it out and then let it cool for 20 minutes or so, 25 minutes. And then it'll be time to dig into it. All right. So it is been sliced after sitting. I'm trying to see get it so you can see the layers there. There we go. All right. Well, this might have actually. No, this wouldn't have been easier. Well, maybe. So, layers are clearly visible there. And I'm going to get busy eating. Let me get a taste right now. Saturday Night Live just went off, and now I have this preacher man on my TV who started talking right before I started recording. So anyway, stop playing. Okay. Oh yes, nice and cheesy. Time for the taste. Mmm. Okay. That's scrump delicious. I can't mess with y'all no more. Make it, try it, make it your own. But you got to do this. Mm, mm, mm.